The morning light filtered through the crystalline towers of Sector 7, painting the Valorian city in shades of amber and violet. Eleanor adjusted her satchel and stepped onto the translucent walkway, her lavender skin catching the sunrise as she hurried toward the academy. She was running late again, another morning lost to her research on human mythology, a subject most Valorians dismissed as the folklore of a primitive species. 3 kilometers away, hidden in the ruins of an abandoned observation post, Jasper adjusted his scope. His weathered hands moved with practiced precision, tracking Eleanor's familiar silhouette through the morning crowd. 10 years. 10 years of shadows and silence, of watching over someone who would never know his name. Eleanor didn't see the Krell assassin perched on the transport station's roof. She didn't notice the micro-drone tracking her thermal signature, but Jasper did. His finger rested against the trigger, steady as stone despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The assassin's rifle barrel caught a glint of sunlight as it aligned with Eleanor's path. One shot. The Krell's weapon sparked and died, its targeting system shattered by a round that traveled faster than sound. The assassin scanned the horizon frantically before retreating into the morning chaos. Unaware of the ghost that haunted these streets, Eleanor paused, sensing something, a disturbance in the air perhaps. She looked around, her large opalescent eyes searching, then shrugged and continued walking. She had a presentation to deliver on the curious concept of human guardian angels. Jasper allowed himself the ghost of a smile. If only she knew. The mission had begun a decade ago, when Eleanor was just a child and the Human-Valorian alliance hung by a thread. Jasper had been a Marine Scout sniper, one of the best humanity had to offer. When Valorian intelligence discovered that Eleanor's father, a prominent diplomat working toward lasting peace, had been marked for assassination, they'd requested something unusual: invisible protection. Someone who could guard the man's daughter without the political complications of a visible security detail. Jasper had volunteered. What he'd thought would be a 6-month assignment became something far more permanent. Eleanor's father had died anyway, a political poison that no sniper could have prevented. But young Eleanor survived, and Jasper's mission evolved. She was now the symbol of the new generation, a brilliant xenoanthropologist whose work bridged the cultural divide between humans and Valorians. Keeping her alive meant keeping the fragile peace alive. Over the years, Jasper had eliminated 17 assassination attempts. Krell mercenaries, sector pirates, even rogue Valorian separatists who saw Eleanor's pro-human stance as treason, none had come close. Jasper made sure of that. He'd learned her routines better than she knew them herself. The cafe where she ordered jasmine tea every Tuesday. The library alcove where she studied ancient Earth literature. The park where she sketched the sunset on quiet evenings. He knew that she twisted her hair when nervous, that she hummed old Valorian lullabies when concentrating, that she sometimes cried alone in her apartment when the weight of her father's legacy became too heavy. Those were the hardest nights, watching her grieve, wanting nothing more than to tell her she wasn't alone. But his mission demanded invisibility. The moment she knew about him would be the moment the enemy could exploit her awareness. They could track her reactions, predict his positions, turn his protection into her vulnerability. So Jasper remained a ghost. That evening, Eleanor sat in her favorite park, sketching the twin moons rising over the city. She'd been thinking about guardian angels again, that peculiar human concept of invisible protectors watching over mortals. Her colleagues found it quaint, even primitive, but Eleanor sensed something profound in the idea, something that spoke to a deeper truth about connection and sacrifice. She didn't notice the sniper team setting up on the adjacent building. Krell by their heat signatures. Professional, patient. They'd been tracking her for 3 days, waiting for the perfect moment when she'd be stationary and exposed. Jasper had been tracking them for 4. His position in the derelict tower gave him overlapping fields of fire on both Krell shooters. The challenge was timing. He needed to eliminate both before either could fire or transmit a warning. 2 targets, 2 seconds maximum. 300 meters in urban wind conditions, he breathed. The world narrowed to mathematics and instinct. Wind speed 3 knots from the east. Elevation 17 degrees. First target acquiring Eleanor in his scope. Jasper fired. The first Krell dropped before his brain registered the impact. Jasper's bolt cycled, Second target turning, beginning to realize. Another shot. Silence. Eleanor looked up from her sketchpad, sensing that strange disturbance again, like a whisper of wind that carried weight. She scanned the skyline, her analytical mind trying to identify the source of her unease. For a moment she could have sworn she saw a glint of light from the old tower, but it vanished before she could focus on it. Guardian angels, she murmured to herself, returning to her sketch. Perhaps humans understood something we Valorians forgot. Jasper packed his rifle with practiced efficiency. In 20 minutes he'd be gone from this position, relocated to another of his carefully prepared hides. Valorian security would find the Krell bodies by morning and attribute it to a gang dispute. Eleanor would give her lecture on human mythology tomorrow. And Jasper would be there, invisible in the crowd, watching for threats she'd never see coming. His communicator buzzed, a message from command. Eleanor had been approved for an ambassadorial position to Earth. She'd be traveling to humanity's homeworld within the month. His mission parameters were being updated. He'd be going home, still watching over her, still unseen. Jasper looked through his scope one last time, watching Eleanor pack up her sketching supplies. She paused and looked directly toward his position, not at him, but at the space he occupied. For a heartbeat, Jasper wondered if she somehow sensed him. If some instinct deeper than awareness knew she was protected. Then she smiled, that gentle, genuine smile that made 10 years of shadows worthwhile, and walked toward her apartment. Safe, alive, free to change the galaxy in ways she didn't yet understand. Sleep well, Eleanor, Jasper whispered into the darkness. I'll be here. As the twin moons climbed higher, casting their silver light across the Valorian city, a ghost stood watch from the ruins. Some would call it duty. Others might call it obsession. But Jasper knew the truth Eleanor's research was slowly uncovering. Sometimes the greatest acts of humanity came not from being seen, but from choosing to remain invisible so others could shine. 10 years of silence, 10 years of shadows, and if the galaxy needed it, Jasper would give 10 more. Because that's what humans did. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves, even if it meant never receiving thanks, never being known, never being anything more than a whisper of wind in the darkness. Eleanor reached her apartment and locked the door, unaware that the most important person in her life stood 3 blocks away, already scanning for tomorrow's threats. She opened her research notes and wrote a new entry. Human guardian angels, myth or metaphor for the invisible bonds that protect civilization. In his hide, Jasper allowed himself a tired smile. Both, he said to the empty air. Definitely both. The city lights glittered like stars, and somewhere between the shadows and the light, a sniper kept his eternal vigil, proof that some angels don't need wings, just a steady hand and an unbreakable promise. The end.